If you'd like online business explained to you in a way that you can actually understand, go to latenightim.com/explain. It's completely free and I made it just for you. Now, how about an episode? Episode 179.
Late Night Internet Marketing.
This week on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, we talk all about website push notifications. Are these good for you? Do you need them? We break it all down, all this and more on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
The Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
You've been working for somebody else, but you want a business to run yourself. You want to know how to start and where to begin. Can you get out your comfort zone, my friend? Yes, you can do it right when it's late at night. At the end of the day, your dreams burning inside. So keep it up and you will find that you're building your business one night at a time.
And now, broadcasting late at night from a little studio in the big state of Texas, your host, Mark Mason.
Well, hello. I hope you are doing absolutely fantastic. I am your host, Mark Mason, and I'm coming to you from the little studio in Dallas, Texas, where we do a little late night internet marketing, working on things that help you grow your business, and I hope that's happening for you. This week, we have got all kinds of exciting stuff to talk about, but I have to tell you about the fantastic experience that I had on Voxer today. I'm actually running a little late, a few days late, getting this episode out. Those of you that I've heard from that have reminded me of that fact, thank you very much. Things have been a little busy around here, but I am getting this episode out now, and it's on the heels of a fantastic conversation that I had on Voxer today. You'll recall that a couple of weeks ago in an episode, I mentioned that I was available for conversations on Voxer. And I got some feedback, including some today, that I was a little hard to find on Voxer. So as a new Voxer user, I think I didn't really totally understand how to perfectly set up my profile. Now you can find me on Voxer at Late Night IM, which is what you might expect. I've got that all sorted out. And if that's not enough, you can go to latenightim.com/Voxer, and that will take you to my Voxer profile. And again, I'm interested in connecting with listeners on Voxer. So if you want to say hey to me, I would love that. I'd love to talk to you on Voxer. Voxer's a cool medium for me because we can communicate back and forth, and I can answer you asynchronously. So if I'm in the middle of something like my day job, I don't necessarily have to pick up Voxer and answer right then. And I heard from some listeners. I heard from Danny Mullen, who I expect to see out in Tennessee in a couple of weeks. And I heard from Jared Van Dyke. But today I also heard from Awaz Shah from Pakistan. Here's what he had to say. And this just totally made my day.
I'm from Pakistan, and I am a big fan of your show, and I always listen to your podcast show when I walk down the streets in the morning.
So that's really cool. I love that kind of feedback, and I play that for you just to tell you how much that kind of feedback means to me, how much that's so much what I do this for, and how exciting it is for me to get that kind of feedback, how much I love that. So thank you very much. But we had a very interesting conversation. Awaz had some very interesting things to say about my last episode 178, regarding changes in Google and the Google rich snippets and so forth. He had lots of interesting things to say. And one of the things that we discussed, which I tried to communicate part of this, but I thought Awaz did such an amazing job explaining it to his point of view to me that I wanted to share his discussion with you here. We talked about the fact that a lot of the search traffic that Google is taking over with these rich snippets where they actually present the answer to your query either directly in the search bar or right on the search results page. I think the example I used in the podcast was the population of Texas. Those searches don't really have much commercial intent. And so we talked about the fact that that is not really a super big deal for bloggers who are trying to convert Google traffic into revenue. It is a deal in the sense that it keeps that visitor from getting to your page and possibly opting into your email list, for example. But from in terms of a straight up affiliate marketing play, it's less of a big deal than it might be. Now, from an advertising impression play, it's still pretty important because those advertisers are buying impressions and they don't count on the commercial intent of the searcher, but they are monitoring the conversions they get from the impressions from your website. So while you'll have fewer impressions on your ads for advertisers that are paying by impression, the quality of the ad results that your advertisers will be getting might be better because Google is starting to filter out some of these searchers that don't have high commercial intent. They aren't looking to buy anything. Awas pointed out to me that it is also true for Google that these searchers don't have commercial intent for Google, and therefore advertisers that are advertising on Google are also going to be less interested in purchasing those ads on Google.
Yeah, and it won't help Google in any way. Like if blogger is not getting clicks, so obviously Google is there to make money and to get clicks for their advertiser. So advertiser won't pay Google. So Google attract users using these type of queries. Like I call them free queries. So like if someone is a fan of Google, so they are getting a lot of information within Google, so that they don't have to do a lot of searches and a lot of digging. So when the user search for valuable stuff and you want to buy something or you want to hire a local plumber or anything else, so Google is showing them ads. So obviously Google can't show ads if someone is looking for a New York population.
So it's a double-edged sword that Google is diluting their conversion rate by holding some of that traffic onto on Google, in the sense that someone who is searching the Google search page and looking for the population of Texas, there's not really many advertisers that want to advertise on that Google page either. But what we decided, and I think the big play for Google here is that it is building the habit for users to have such an amazing search experience on Google that they turn to Google all the time, including the times when they do have commercial search intent. So I thought that was a really great conversation. It stretched out over the better part of an hour, sort of 45 seconds at a time. And it's really neat to talk to someone in Islamabad about my podcast and his impressions about it. So really super exciting for me, and I really appreciate that conversation. If you'd like to reach out to me, again, latenightim.com/Voxer. You can also find me at Late Night IM now on Voxer. You should be able to find me there, and I'd love to hear from you on the Voxer platform. That's super fun for me. And thanks again to Awas in Islamabad. Thank you very much for reaching out to me. That made my day.
It's time to get to work building your internet business. One night at a time.
One night at a time.
Okay, so what I wanted to talk to you about today was website push notifications. So I'm involved in a training program, mastermind, membership site. I don't know quite what to call it, with Neil Patel. And it's a thing that he recently opened up to people so that people who could not afford to hire Neil Patel and his agency, which usually cost tens of thousands of dollars, but wanted to learn directly from Neil Patel, could become a member of. I'm a member of that. And that gives me access to things that Neil Patel is publishing, including some tips regarding traffic. So the whole point of some of the teaching inside of this Agency Unlocked package that Neil has is that you should be able to double your website traffic. So I've been following along with some of Neil's recommendations, and it's great because Neil's pretty much a traffic genius in a lot of ways. But what's really neat about this is he breaks these things down into actionable steps that you can do in sort of 30 minutes a day. He said, here, go do this, go check this, try these things. And so that's really good for me because I'm not 100% totally focused on the traffic for the Late Night Internet Marketing blog, but I'd love to double it. So it's a really nice way for me to make small incremental improvements and changes in the traffic situation at latenightim.com without having to go crazy and commit an enormous amount of time or spend an enormous amount of money. So that's really cool. So one of the things that Neil recommended in this was adding website push notifications. And I had not done this before. I am aware of website push notifications, and actually I use them myself for certain websites. For example, I have website push notifications at the moment turned on for CNN, and I am able to catch some breaking news there. Although it's interesting to me because as these news outlets change their political views, sometimes I end up finding out about things, but sometimes the writing is not to my liking, and that's a whole separate podcast. But I happen to have CNN turned on right now. I have the Smart Passive Income blog web notifications turned on. I have web notifications turned on at iMore, but I never really thought about using web notifications for Late Night IM. And I'm not sure why, because it makes a lot of sense. And in my particular case, if you go to latenightim.com now, what you'll find is you get this little prompt like you might get on a lot of websites that says, hey, would you like to accept? This website would like to send you notifications. Would you like to accept? And you don't really get much more information than that. And usually, honestly, when I see those website notifications for most blogs and websites that I visit, I say no. I usually don't want those. I know enough about time management to know that asynchronous interruptions like that to my day are a bad idea. I'll get sucked down the rabbit hole. So I usually say no. But Neil's point is a lot of people say yes. And so I turn this on the Late Night Internet Marketing blog, and these website notifications are coming in faster than email opt-ins, considerably faster. A lot of people are opting in to be notified when I choose to notify them on my blog. Now, what does that mean? It means that I can go to a tool on the web and I can send a message to those users that will pop up in their browser. And I intend to use this for an intelligent purpose, which I think is to notify people of a new podcast episode. So when I release this episode of the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, I intend to go over to this tool that I use, which I'm going to tell you all about, and I am going to send a message to everyone who has opted into these web push notifications, website push notifications. I'm going to let them know that there is a new episode of the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast out, and if they click that notification, it will take them right to the blog post where they can play the episode. So that's pretty cool, and I think helpful, because surprisingly, there are many, many people who listen to the podcast regularly, but they aren't subscribed in a podcast tool like Apple Podcasts or Overcast or one of those kind of podcast apps. They actually go to the website to listen to the podcast, or they find some other way to listen to it. And so that is maybe they're listening to it on Pandora or Stitcher, but they're not subscribed to it. And so that's a really good way to reach those people. And so I'm going to give that a try. I'll let you know. What I do know is that inside of this training that I received, Neil demonstrated this. It was pretty amazing. He opened up his account, and he showed the number of subscribers that he had to his website for push notifications. And he sent them a message regarding some new blog post that he had published. And it was a message with a very crisp call to action, new content posted here regarding XYZ, or something enticing that made them want to click. And he sent that live while we were watching. It wasn't live, but it was, a recorded video. And then he switched over to Google Analytics, and you could see in real time visitors arriving at the blog, and the click-through rate on this thing resulted in hundreds of simultaneous users on Neil's blog within minutes. Now, of course, Neil's subscription list is huge, but the point of the matter is that many people, and I've observed this as well on latenight.internetmarketing.com, many people subscribe to these push notifications. People use them. Even though I don't love them and I usually don't subscribe, I may not be the typical case for my reader. And that's something for you to realize no matter what marketing you're doing. Don't fall into the trap of assuming that you know what people are going to do. You must test things in order to know whether or not they're going to work. So these push notifications, while I find them mildly annoying, people use them. They're subscribing right now at latenightim.com. They're signing up, and we'll see what happens the first time I try to use these as I publish this episode, and I'll report that to you in the next episode of the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, or perhaps a week from now when I get around to getting caught up with that. But the point is, these push notifications are super easy to install. Now, there are many services for this out there. I'm not affiliated with any of them, but the one that I'm using right now is called subscribers.com. And it turns out there's two very easy ways to install these website push notifications. One is, if you're using WordPress, they have a very simple WordPress plugin. It works fantastically. The second way, and it's the way that I used, is you can install the Java source code directly into the headers field of, or actually under the body tag of your WordPress blog. If you're more technical, you may prefer that. I generally am not a lover of plugins because it creates a lot of confusion when something doesn't work. So if I can avoid a plugin, a lot of times I will do that. And I did in this case. The subscribers people actually recommend that you use the plugin. And if you're using WordPress, I probably recommend that for you too. And that's it. You install it, and subscribers.com has a free tier that you can use, and it just works. And you can get up to a couple of hundred subscribers for free. You can do your own testing. It even has an ROI calculator in there if you know what the value is of one of these types of subscribers, which I don't know how in the world you would know that to start out, but if you can figure out what that value is for you, then you can actually compute the ROI of those subscribers directly in the software. It's slick, it's Web 2.0 looking, it's very easy to use, it's well designed, it's nice and clean. Subscribers.com looks really cool to me. And what I really like about it is, if you're like me and this is something you've never done before, it's really nice to have a free tier where you can actually try this. Everything that you need to test it out works, and I think that's really cool. A couple of things to look out for, to know, and to watch out for when you're doing this. One is you need to pay some attention to the copy that you write. These push notifications, especially on the Mac, are pretty small. You don't have a lot of characters, so you've got to write copy for these push notifications in the same way that you would write a tweet, right? It's got to be short and to the point. Your purpose of this copy is to get your subscribers to click on the notification, and that means that you've got to be clear and communicate value, or at least the potential for value, in this tweet. You want to create curiosity, but you want to balance that with being absolutely clear and crisp in your copy, so people know exactly what they're going to get when they click on that little notification that comes up in the browser. All of the normal copywriting things that you normally use apply, as long as you can fit them in. Scarcity and urgency are great here. For example, if you've got a sale going on, let's say you're on an e-commerce blog and you're using these push notifications and you've got a sale going on and it only lasts today or today only or 12 hours only or 3 hours remaining, you can do those push notifications like that. So copy is really important. The other thing that's really important for push notifications that's not the case for email and other type of ads is you really need to pay attention to when you're pushing them. If you're like me and you've got listeners all over the world, including in Pakistan, for example, it may not make sense, depending on what you're doing, to push a push notification in the middle of the night in Asia from the United States. You might want to wait and push that Asia notification in the middle of the night in the United States so that people get it in the middle of the day in Asia, for example. So you got to pay attention to that. And when you get to higher levels of the software, you're able to schedule those things based on time zone and so forth. The software will do that for you. That's one of the paid features at subscribers.com, as I recall. The other thing that you need to pay attention to when you get a lot of subscribers, or that you may need to pay attention to, is like in Neil's case, if you've got a blog and then suddenly thousands of people go to it, we used to call that getting slash dotted, because if your blog was published on Slashdot, you would probably go down. You can create that same situation with push notifications. If your blog is not set up to handle that many simultaneous visitors, if you don't have the right kind of hosting for that, you may want to drip out your content to keep from taking your own site down. And then the other thing I would say, you can think about some things that are common to email marketing, like segmentation and sending frequency. The same kind of ideas apply. Obviously, if you send these push notifications all the time, people are going to opt out, just like in email. And also, just like in email, there are ways you can do segmentation with subscribers.com and these push notifications so that you send things to people that matter. You know, they send topic appropriate push notifications to people that want to see them. So for example, let's say I had people that were interested in the podcast and people that weren't, and somehow I'd found a way to have a segment of people that were listeners and a segment of people that were not listeners. I could just send the push notification out to the listeners. That keeps the non-listeners from unsubscribing because I'm offering them information that they don't care about. So I'll put a link to subscribers.com in the show notes, and I recommend that you try it. It's really easy to set up, and you can have it running within 10 or 15 minutes on your blog, and then let it run for a couple of weeks and see who subscribes. You don't have to send out a single notification. You can just sit there and collect subscribers and see what happens. See if your traffic will convert to that kind of marketing. And then once you get some subscribers, you can run a small test, send out a notification to a blog post, some other helpful content on your blog, and see if people click. And then you'll have run your own test, your own data with your own subscribers, and you can do all of that for free. That's my recommendation for you on this week on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
Now it's your turn. What action are you going to take to build your business?
One night at a time.
All right, so 2 actions for you this week from the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast. One is, I would love to hear from you on Voxer, latenightim.com/Voxer, Late Night IM on Voxer. Let's hear from you. I'd love to hear what's going on. Tell me about your toughest challenge. Tell me how I can help you. Tell me what you'd like to hear on the show, or just say hi. Say, hey, I'm doing this because you asked me to, and I have no idea what to say. That'll make me laugh, and I'll love that. If you know how to make a strange noise, send me the strange noise. Whatever you got, I'd love to hear from you on Voxer. Let's start a conversation. And then the second thing is, give push notifications a try, and then hit me up on Voxer and let me know what happens. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what kind of results you're getting. It's a totally simple and awesome thing to try. really easy to hook up, and then you can get results very quickly and understand whether or not this is something that will help you and your business. Until next week, I am Mark Mason, and I appreciate hearing from you. I appreciate it when you listen, and I hope you have an amazing week. Ciao.
You can do it right when it's late at night.
You've been listening to the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
Be sure to visit latenightpodcast.com today to leave feedback for Mark. Download special bonus content, access the show notes, and more. See you there.
Until then, go and make some great progress on your internet business. One night at a time.
One night at a time.
So I'm getting ready to go to Free the Dream. I'm so excited. There's just so much. There's a Free the Dream community for people who've bought tickets, and I'm in there. And I've been talking to people a little bit, and their people are just excited. It's palpable. It's not your normal conference, right? It's a life-changing thing. And I'm honored to be a tiny, small part of it. And I will be on stage at one point, and I'll be talking about why, understanding your why that's important, how that helps, and why you should take the time to figure it out. I'm preparing slides, a 45-minute talk. And so I want it to be epic, not just because I don't want to let my buddy Cliff down, which certainly there's that, but Leslie's going to be there and Ray's going to be there, and there's that. But all of these people are so excited about this thing, and I feel all of this responsibility to do well, to really deliver, to just deliver, as Cliff would say, can't live without content. So I've been doing a lot of research and going through a bunch of old notes and stuff. And I found this Zig Ziglar quote that I wanted to tell you about today. I wish I could do a Zig Ziglar accent, impersonation. Who the guy who does that really, really well is Chris Ducker, who also loves Zig Ziglar. But Zig says, "Did you know that every human being is created with a purpose, and that they have a responsibility to not only discover their purpose, but also to fulfill it?" I love that. Zig Ziglar. I love that, because what it means is it's on you to go, not just to say that you don't know what your purpose is and you're just not happy with what's going on. It's on you to go figure it out. You have a responsibility. Zig is talking about the Bible puts that on you. God puts that on you, but the universe is putting that on you to say, look, it is on you to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. And then it's doubly on you to then go do it. That's a legit responsibility that you have. And I hope that if you are not sure that you're working on the right thing, that you're doing what you should be doing, that you're fully alive with whatever it is that you're working on, I hope that you feel put upon to go and dig into that a little bit, to unpack that, to discover what it is that you should be working on. What is your zone of genius that you should be working on, and go move in that direction. That makes the world a better place, and it's going to make your life better. And I want to encourage you to move in that direction. Ciao.
Late night internet marketing.
Hey, it's Mark again. I wanted to tell you one more time about this absolutely free resource that I have for helping people who are trying to get the big picture for internet marketing, actually get started and understand what all their choices are. If that's not you, there's no more content. You can skip to the end. But if you're someone who came to this podcast because you're searching for how to get started online, and you just can't cut through all the noise. I get it. That was me in 2007 when I was trying to get started. There were so many people throwing offers at me that I really couldn't even understand what all the different business models were. I couldn't understand how money moved around on the internet, and I couldn't really get a grip on what direction I wanted to go in so I could figure out how to move forward. I've created a free video resource for you just for that purpose at latenightim.com/explain. In several short videos, I just explained to you what internet marketing is all about and what online business is all about and the different options that you have for starting an online business. There's nothing to buy there. You just sign up for access and you get the videos just like that. So if that's interesting to you, or if you know someone who's in a same situation, send them that link, latenightim.com/explain. And let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what people are thinking that are in the exact same position that I was in more than a decade ago in 2007. In some ways, it seems like yesterday. And in some ways, it seems like an entire lifetime ago. Again, that's latenightim.com/explain.
Late night internet marketing.